Hi, hello, welcome or welcome back to my channel. My name is Jess and this is Nigel. These are my other new frames. Thank you. We are here for a special edition of Book CommuniTEA. This is primarily about one person. There are some other people involved. This was supposed to be the video on Rachel Hollis, but this seemed more pressing. And honestly, I needed more time because there's so much on Rachel Hollis to cover. So anywho, as you see behind us, I have my whiteboard where I've been trying to write out all this information. Here, sit right here for a second. And don't try to read it because my handwriting is terrible when I don't have lines. But what I have essentially is this main story is about Emily Duncan, who is a young adult author. There are also some other authors that are in this story as well. And then I have a list of the accusations. And then if I have evidence of them, because I don't have evidence of everything. And so I'm going to try to present this as clearly and logically as possible. So there's been a lot said, a lot going around about Emily Duncan. And I've heard from a lot of people on both sides on what is true and what is not. Emily has released an apology, as well as some other people involved in this have released apologies. So this isn't to, hey, let's gang up on Emily Duncan. There's plenty of that's already happened, but this is to try to provide all of the information that's been said, what can be substantiated, and go from there. Also, I've been trying different kombuchas. I just put this on my Instagram story, but I just tried this one, the Gutsy Captain kombucha. It is awful. It literally tastes like carbonated rubbing alcohol. And this is supposed to be raspberry flavor, but it's like there was one raspberry and they went on the outside of the bottle like this and they're like, bam, raspberry kombucha. This is terrible. Yeah, I'm glad I bought one of those because it's, oh my God, I can't even drink it. Hello, I'm editing. I usually edit downstairs, so this is a little different for me, but I just want to warn those of you watching this video that topics will include discussions of anti-Semitic themes and racism, mentions of bullying and harassment. So just tread lightly. Just wanted you to know that. Okay, so to start, Emily Duncan is a published young adult author. Their book, Wicked Saints, came out in 2019, and I think just this past Tuesday, the final book in that trilogy, Blessed Monsters, I think, just came out. I haven't read these books, but I remember hearing about Wicked Saints when it was coming out. What I really heard about it was that it was really similar to Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse books. They're very Eastern European, Slavic-inspired story. And then when people were reading the book, I heard some negative things about Emily Duncan that people were saying like they didn't understand certain parts or certain parts didn't make sense. And that Emily Duncan, was tweeting like, I'm sorry, other authors may spoon feed you things, but like, I'm not going to hold your hand. That's all I really remember. So I'm going to backtrack a bit from Emily Duncan. And in my last video, I talked about Jay Kristoff and issues with problematic content in his previous books. And then with the release of his new book that I was getting 4 arcs, talked about that in that video. If you want to watch it, I'll link it up and below. However, so in the midst of all of this drama surrounding Emily Duncan, which we will get to because they have also been accused of anti-Semitism in their work, Jay Kristoff got brought up again because people are talking about him because of his book coming out and his problematic history, that in the series Nevernight, one of the characters, who is a blood sorcerer, is named Adonai, which in Hebrew is the name for God. So people were pointing that out. This is the Adonai entry from Wiki, and I mean, I've read the book, so I know who he is, but essentially, he is one of 2 albino sorcery in the service of the Red Church. Adonai is a blood speaker, a master of the ancient Ashkahi art of manipulating human vitus, but like his sister Marielle, his gift too comes with a price. Adonai craves and thirsts for the very thing he controls, and his survival depends on it. So he's tall and slender and pale as a new blood corpse. His eyes are red. His skin is seemed made of marble. Long hair swept back, white as winter snow. An open silk robe revealing a smooth, hard chest, but his beauty is only skin deep. And there also is a thread on Twitter, which I can link below, where someone who is actually albino talked about how this was harmful representation as well. Hello, it's me again, but I received a message on Instagram. I'm not going to share the person, but I wanted to include this as well. They said, "Hi Jess, I love your book community videos and really enjoy learning about different things going on in publishing in our community in general. I know Jay Kristoff has been a topic recently for a few reasons, and over the past couple of days, I think there are even more reasons to stop supporting him. I'm not sure if you've seen the recent conversations about anti-Semitism in publishing, but it would mean a lot to me and other Jewish readers if this topic could be included in an upcoming CommuniTEA video. Just a brief summary of the recent conversation involved Emily Duncan, Jay Kristoff, and publishing at large. Duncan wrote a large part of her series on the anti-Semitic trope of blood libel. One of her characters who performed blood libel is even named a derivative of a common Jewish name, and I'll get to that in a bit. Jay Kristoff's anti-Semitism is beyond belief. Not only did he write a storyline based on blood libel, but the character performing the blood libel is named Adonai, which is what we Jews call God. There's so much more I could add to this topic. I already apologize for the lengthy message, but I hope that this incredibly important topic can be brought to light in book community. I'm thankful that people are beginning to notice the inherent anti-Semitism in these few examples, but it's only a start and we need as many people informed on this as possible." So I have been learning a lot this week on really on Twitter about these common themes that are in a lot of fantasy book. But yeah, the blood libel essentially saying that Jewish people, do blood sacrifice, and that's essentially what Adonai does in the Nevernight series. So I just wanted to share that because that person sent that to me, and I already was bringing up Jay Kristoff. So just to elaborate on that topic. I don't know if he put that in there on purpose as like a slight to Jewish people, but some have brought up that, like someone in editing should have caught that, but no one did. So that was brought up in the conversation again, and around Emily Duncan. How long is this video going to be, you ask? I don't know, but I felt like I should address this also. Jay Kristoff, also Amy Kaufman. So there was a tweet by LNO that says, "I will never forget being at lunch with his friend / co-writer, who, when we, two Asian American authors, gently brought up the problems with his books, completely dismissed us and told us flat out we were wrong and there was absolutely nothing wrong with his books, then unfollowed us." So that was brought up, saying that they brought that issue up to Amy Kaufman and she said, nope, there's nothing wrong with it. So then if you see lists circulating around about authors not to support and why Amy Kaufman's name is on that list, that is why. I don't know. Then also there was a excerpt of an interview around asking, there was one interview someone did with Jay Kristoff like back in 2012 about Storm Dancer, which is his series that is based off of Japanese culture. And they asked him like, what research did he do to prepare for this book? So in this interview, it says, what sort of research did you do for Storm Dancer? And Jay's answer, it says, drank lots of sake, ate pocky until my eyes bled, had my friends yell curse words at me in Japanese while I trawled Wikipedia, watched anime, read old Japanese fiction, watched Seven Samurai around 3,000 times, slept with all 6 volumes of Akira under my pillow. But then I saw another interview also from around the same time. These are both in September of 2012. Then this person said, how much research did you have to do for Storm Dancer? What was the craziest search term you typed while researching online? And Jay said, I'm never entirely sure how to answer questions like that, so I usually insert some smart assery like drank lots of sake or something similar. I've been living with Japanese literature and cinema in one form or another since I was a kid. I read books on feudal Japan, so think you could beat a burglar to death with them. But the truth is you can read as much on a subject as you like. You're never going to be possessed of the same knowledge base as someone who was born in the country from which it originates. With that in mind, I recruited 4 friends who live in Japan, 2 Japanese-born, 2 expats to help me out. And I used them as my sounding boards and vetting police. The craziest term I used in searching online was probably something to do with traditional Japanese undergarments. So I don't say this to like defend Jay Kristoff, but I know that one excerpt was flirting around. And in this one, it sounds like he probably said it like as a joke. We can't say if what he really did to prepare for this book or not based on these 2 answers, but I just want to share both of those. And regardless, when you are writing outside of a community or an experience that's not your own, it is going to be really hard to do it well. So I don't know what he did to prepare for that book. Regardless, after it came out and people criticized it, I think that would be something worthy to maybe take note of. And not saying to go rewrite it, but maybe make a statement. I don't know. Anyway, wanted to share that as well. Then on April 5th, Author Rin Chupeco, who you probably heard of in other videos because they tend to call people out on Twitter, tweeted, "Are we ready to talk about that white author who called another Asian author ugly on an author Slack and trashed their book because they had similar themes and were supposed to release on the same week? Or will the so-called allies denounce me for criticizing their friend? Still thinking about whether to publicly release this, knowing the people actually involved and hurt by this will be affected all over again. But it's the same author who mocked bloggers that their blogs only help sell like 3 copies of their books so she can dismiss their work." So then people were speculating all later that day about who Rin was talking about, and I had no idea. But then I think further down in the tweet thread that someone said Emily Duncan. So then Rin tweeted, "Happy advance release date of Blessed Monsters by Emily Duncan" on April 5th, so later that day. And then the next day, quote tweeted that and said, "It's very sweet of y'all to think this might affect my career, but no, she can't do jack shit. That's why, unlike other authors, she and her group tried to subtweet into silence. One obvious burner is all she can make. They won't retaliate directly. I'm chaotic. I scare them. If anyone said earlier, you're worried about me, thank you, but I'm far more embedded in this industry than Emily Duncan or her friends Rory Powers, Christine, Lynn Herman, or Claire Wentz. When you try harassment campaigns against authors I like HF, expect my rage." I didn't call her out to affect her sales or the industry. My only reason is to ensure no other authors will be bullied by them, however new they are. You know anyone still being harassed by them, tell me. I will be confronting them directly because now they're on notice. I'm not close friends with any of the authors affected, mutuals at best, maybe one actual interaction in the past in the least. I don't do this for friends. I do this because they're pieces of shit. That's all I need, and I double down shit pants in those group chats. Emily. I already talked about their shenanigans a year or so ago, but didn't want to overstep. Not anymore. LOL. Y'all gotta know one of them followed me, likely to keep tabs on what I'll say. Wonder what the group chat reaction was when I followed back. In response to Rin's thread the next day, Hafsa Faisal, who's a popular YA author who has a duology, We Hunt the Flame and We Free the Stars, quote tweeted Rin's tweet and said, "I wasn't going to get involved, but my DMs are flooding with people asking if I'm the HF mentioned here, and I'm tired of keeping quiet, so yes, it's me. We're taught to keep our heads down, to downplay, to ignore and pretend nothing's happening, to weather through because, hey, everything ends at some point. And it did end. I didn't just weather through, I powered through. But the effects don't disappear. The months leading up to my debut were some of the most anxiety-ridden, isolating months of my life because of this. I'm still living the results. I'm okay now, really I am, but that doesn't mean it never happened. I'm no stranger to harassment, to being gaslit and reminded I don't belong almost anywhere. But over the years, I'd made a slot for myself. I'd built a sense of place and confidence and felt good about it. This almost unraveled that. It's one thing to know you're being harassed. It's another when it's in the form of subtweets and snide comments and being ignored by people you believed were allies, and you begin to wonder if it's even real or if it's all in your head. Those hurt the most. When someone you think is an ally, a few key Muslims in publishing included, looks the other way or worse, puts a harasser on a pedestal. Anyway, I'm not around much and I'm not looking for pity, just saying that yes, it happened, but I'm okay now. I'll always be okay, and you guys and my sisters are one of the reasons why. So HF that was alluded to in Rin Chupeco's tweets was Hafsa Faisal. So Rin Chupeco's tweets did say the author that bullied, called another Asian author ugly, trashed their book. So I'm assuming that Rin Chupeco was only talking about Hafsa Faisal because that's the only confirmation. Some people were speculating that it might have been Amelie, is that how you say it? Amelie Zhao, who wrote Blood Heir, which had its own controversy when it was coming out. There was criticisms on how slavery was presented in the book, I think, like saying it was racist. I haven't read that either, and she revised that and published it at a later date. But I'm assuming because Hafsa came out and said it, that Rin was just referring to the bullying towards Hafsa, which is so awful. And it sounds like she went through a lot. Anyway, Hafsa is on Forbes' list of 30 under 30, which is amazing. I hear nothing but amazing things about her duology. So she obviously looks like she's doing well for herself, and I hope that her mental health is getting back to a positive place as well. I think that it's odd that Rin said they're not close friends with anyone that was involved. And it's about calling out problematic people, which is important to call people out on their, things so they can acknowledge that and hopefully do better. But it seemed like it was something that Hafsa had dealt with and moved past and didn't want to talk about, and then now had to talk about it because Rin tweeted it. And here I'd like to add these additional tweets from Hafsa that said, "So about my thread from 2 days ago, I want to make clear that I had no intention of opening up a locked door. I wasn't aware anyone knew about anything that happened 2 years ago until I woke up to a flood of DMs asking, 'Are you HF?' and looked at the tweets myself. I face too many microaggressions to trust anyone, which is probably why I rarely get on here anymore and largely keep to myself, so believe me when I say I see no point in picking at old wounds." It didn't seem like it was something agreed upon, like, hey, do this for me, because in Rin's initial tweet, they said, "Still thinking about whether to publicly release this, knowing the people actually involved and hurt by this will be affected all over again." But you tweeted that after you already did the initial tweet. I'm not saying it's bad that Rin was calling this behavior out. It just seemed like they should have approached Hafsa, since she was the main victim, I think, here, to say, hey, is this okay if I do this? Maybe it would have been less apparent had Rin not also tweeted the HF, which people automatically assumed was Hafsa, and then started sliding into her DMs. And so she had to come and acknowledge this and bring back up that hurt again. So that just feels, I don't have the word, but like, yes, it's important to call it out, but if you should have taken the victim into consideration before even starting any kind of tweet thread alluding to that behavior, is my thought. But that's me. It's out there now. You can't do anything about it. So this started everybody and their mama coming out the woodwork, having everything to say about Emily Duncan. So that was the first allege, and there is no evidence of that besides Hafsa confirming that, which I'm not going to call Hafsa a liar. If she said she experienced that, then it happened. But I'm just saying I don't have any screenshot or, tweet to prove that Emily did that to Hafsa, but it appears that that actually happened. The next thing was that brought up about a couple years ago on Twitter, and I remember when this happened, that there were some authors who it started around a ship, which is a relationship. Usually in fictional works, people have a couple that they want to be together, and usually we say, like, I ship that, like, I want them to be in a relationship, I want them to be together. And I don't know who started it, but there were some authors talking about this, and one was saying that their ship or ideal pairing in Game of Thrones would have been Jon and Sansa. And in Game of Thrones, if you haven't watched or read it, Jon Snow and Sansa are technically, is that a spoiler? Jon and Sansa are half siblings, okay, in Game of Thrones. And so then people were like, ew, that's like, because they're siblings, and there was just this conversation around that. And I remember people being like, ew, these authors like obviously support because they're talking about this. So I guess the issue was that Emily Duncan and some other authors, including Jessica Cluess, who I've talked about back in December, who had that rant on Twitter, where some people spoke up about, like, can you maybe put trigger warnings on these tweets, or your audience is teens because you write young adult books, like maybe be careful about what you tweet. And a tweet from Emily Duncan says, I had a grown-ass adult in my mentions, like, hello, your platform for teens, and I literally can see my Twitter statistics, the teens ain't here. Jessica Cluess chimed in and said, this is the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my years on this hell platform, and I've seen so much, so much. Emily Duncan replied, yeah, this one has reached just utter baffling proportions. And Jessica Cluess said, and the think of survivors gets me mad, because how dare you drag actual survivors of abusive to this petty tempest in a teapot? The faux compassion is so bewildering, and in my opinion, used solely as a cheap way to win. I hate it. It's cowardice. So basically discounting people that were saying that they were survivors of or abuse when they were younger. And so someone made an anonymous account to, quote, tweet this other anonymous account to say, I'm the survivor in question. I gave this account permission to post about this situation. I was reluctant at first, but I know that the situation had hurt a lot of other survivors, so I felt it was wrong to silence what happened, but I need to clarify some things. What happened the first time is happening again. Instead of understanding that the point was the mockery of survivors for asking for trigger warnings, there's a lot of they're evil for shipping the ship, or OP is evil for comparing shipping to racism and anti-Semitism. You have to understand that without context, I was years younger in a bad mental place with my child's assault trauma and wasn't expecting for declarations of I don't care that their true love on professional young adult accounts without a thought about this being triggering. I was in no way commenting on what they can and cannot ship. It is not my place to navel gaze about that, especially since often it's survivors who are targeted the most for what type of fiction they explore. So that was not my point at all. I'm very anxious about this and think it would have been better forgotten about because it hurts to see people defending my nameless self whilst implying things that actually insult me because they are focusing on what people ship over the mockery of survivors. On the other side, it worries me that people could possibly interpret me as comparing shipping to racism and anti-Semitism. I don't think the burner account's wording ever implied that. It is simply mentioned that I asked for trigger warnings, but I know others have molded the situation otherwise, which disappoints me. It feels like both interpretations, just like those of which happened when the situation first happened, ignore incest survivors to the very end, reducing us to pawns. So the thread keeps going, but that essentially is the issue. Was that not like you can have your ship and do whatever? It was that they were asking for trigger warnings and then mocking that as if they didn't actually experience that abuse. So they were just discounting their experience. And obviously you see the screenshots there. This is the person saying that they were one of the people involved in the situation. So that appears to be another thing that Emily Duncan was a part of, and Jessica Cluess. So the next thing that Emily Duncan has been accused of is the anti-Semitic content in their books. So in Wicked Saints, the blurb on Goodreads says a girl who can speak to gods must save her people without destroying herself. A prince in danger must decide who to trust. A boy with a monstrous secret waits in the wings. Together they must assassinate the king and stop the war. In a centuries-long war where beauty and brutality meet, their three paths entwine in a shadowy world of spilled blood and mysterious saints, where forbidden romance threatens to tip the scales between dark and light. Wicked Saints is the thrilling start to Emily A. Duncan's devastatingly gothic, something dark, and holy trilogy. So along with racist behavior towards Asian authors, they this anonymous account was talking about blatant anti-Semitism in Wicked Saints. And I don't have any direct photos of parts from the book, but this account said it's not just a few one-off lines. The entire premise of their series is anti-Semitic and draws on medieval Christian ideas of blood libel, the belief that Jews practice blood sacrifice. This belief led to countless pogroms against Jews in medieval and early modern Europe. The villainous characters in the book, the vultures, are dark-eyed, dark-haired, vermin-like creatures who are part of a secret cabal that control the government of fantasy Poland. They practice literal blood magic and are led by a man named Malachi. This is a series of breathtakingly vicious anti-Semitic dog whistles, especially given the early modern Eastern European setting of the book, which makes it more or less explicit that these characters are coded as Jews. It could be argued that Emily was unaware and unconsciously absorbed the latent anti-Semitism of Western society, while their tweets about Slavic paganism make it crystal clear that this is not the case. They implored writers wanting to write Slavic-inspired fantasy to listen to actual Rodnovery practitioners and insisted that the information on Wikipedia about Rodnovery was wrong. Let's see what Wikipedia has to say. So the tweet from Emily says, I am very wary of Wikipedia. Rodnovery practitioners will tell you that everything on Slavic paganism on Wikipedia is super wrong. So like even using it as a starting point is sketchy. I looked up how to pronounce this word. Maybe I'm going to pronounce it better and it could still be wrong. But anyway, this Wikipedia insert, which I'll obviously put on the screen, it says nationalism, the political philosophy of Rodnovery can be defined as nativism, nationalism, and populism, all of which render the Russian word Narodnischevo. Probably said that wrong. This is often right-wing ethnic nationalism. Aita Murto suggesting that Russian Rodnover's conceptions of nationalism encompass three main themes: that the Russian or Slavic people are a distinct group, that they have or their heritage has some superior qualities, and that this unique heritage or the existence of this ethnic group is now threatened, and therefore it is of vital importance to fight for it. There are Rodnovers with extreme right-wing nationalist views, including those who are neo-Nazi and openly inspired by Nazi Germany. Some blame many of the world's problems on the mixing of ethnic groups and emphasize the idea of ethnic purity, promoting ideas of racial segregation and demanding the legal prohibition of mixed-race marriages. Some regard ethnic minorities living in Slavic countries as a cause of social injustice, and some Russian road-novers encourage the expulsion from Russia of those they regard as aliens, namely those who are Jewish or have ethnic origins in the Caucasus, an approach which could require ethnic cleansing. Other road-novers are openly anti-Semite, a category which for them means not only anti-Jewish, but more broadly anti-Asian, anti-Christian, and anti-Islamic, and anti-Byzantinist sentiment, and espouse conspiracy theories claiming that Jews and Asians control the economic and political elite. Other road-novers hold philo-Semitic views instead. For instance, candidates regard Jews and Asians in general as part of the same Eastern spiritual humanity of which the Slavs themselves are part, opposed to a Western despiritualized beastly humanity. What? They said road-novery or Slavic neo-paganism is an explicitly nationalist and therefore implicitly anti-Semitic pursuit. If actual road-novery practitioners are the people from which Emily is drawing their research from, it's no surprise how anti-Semitic the premise of their series is. Once again, you could argue that Emily did this because of unconscious bias, but I've been told at cons, Emily joked to Jewish people's faces about how surprised they were that they hadn't been called out for anti-Semitism. There's also a Goodreads review where they address these issues. I won't read the whole thing, but they say that, so in the Goodreads review, they talk about some of the problems. The most basic and obvious is that creating a war between fantasy Poland and fantasy Russia, in which fantasy Poland is a powerful empire run by a cabal of dark-eyed clawing monsters who gain magic powers from blood, is a startling choice. I am myself a Jew whose family fled what was then the Soviet Union and have certain feelings about the rule of various Russian governments in Eastern European politics over the last 400 years that tend to translate poorly to Grisha-inspired fantasy settings. I also have certain feelings about conspiracy of vermin-like underground monsters being used as a trope, especially in Eastern Europe. So it appears the overall theme of the series is anti-Semitic, and again, with the fantasy Poland, fantasy Russia, the way they're describing the people or creatures that live in the fantasy Poland and how they're, all evil and powerful. So there have been a lot of conversations popping up on Twitter about a lot of fantasy tropes and themes and world building that are common in fantasy books that are all based on some kind of anti-Semitic rhetoric. I'm just sharing this information that has been shared on Twitter. And then people think that Emily created a burner account which had a Taylor Swift photo and it said like sad crow, but essentially the burner account, if it is Emily, was replying to all the tweets about Emily Duncan, ones from Rin Chupeco and other people. I don't think it was confirmed that it was Emily Duncan, but it did look suspicious with the timing because they had no followers, they didn't follow anyone, and the account just had been created in the beginning of April 2021. So some of the tweets from the alleged burner account is a quote tweet from Rin Chupeco, the one talking about, are we ready to talk about that white author? And the Sad Crow account says, y'all do a lot of talking and then no proof. Also, in case it is true, she called someone ugly. That's it? You're canceling her because she said that another author is ugly? And by the way, assuming she called X ugly because it's Asian, well, that's racist. Maybe this person is just ugly, I don't know, or she's just rude, and what else? This whole cancel culture is ridiculous. Like that one time children said Riordan was lesbophobic. LOL, children go back to school. This anonymous account was talking about Emily's anti-Asian racism and anti-Semitism, and the account said it's fiction, anon. People in the comments having no absolute idea about anything and still choosing to believe this person. Okay, that's on you. Book Twitter really is the worst place. I'm so glad I'm out. Not people saying she has 0 followers. Like, did you expect me to use my actual account just so you can bully me? Like, think. Or maybe it really was Emily Duncan then. And the last ones I have is, who is this person anyways? Why does this person want so much clout? It's embarrassing. I scare them. Talking about Rin Chupeco. So it seems as if this person, and I think I read the tweets backwards in time, but whatever. It really seems like this is Emily because of those 2 tweets. I scare them. And do you expect me to use my actual account? So wow. Yeah, that's a lot. And then the account, of course, got deleted. It was like tweets aren't loading right now. So there goes that. So earlier I said about my remembrance of an Emily Duncan situation that happened on Twitter was something people brought up again about them discrediting book bloggers and kind of talking down to people who were reviewing their book. So some of the tweets, and again, a lot of these tweets don't have context because they're just Emily's tweets. They don't have like whoever she was responding to. So just so you know, but some of the tweets are, I just think readers could do with becoming comfortable with things not always being explained in rote detail. Anyway, plenty of fantasy authors will hold your hand. I won't, sorry. Listen, when I've seen 40, the pacing was terrible / messy / rushed reviews, and 40, the pacing was great reviews, tell me really how helpful the constructive criticism and the negative actually is. It isn't. Again, you can't see what Emily was replying to, but I do remember some people saying that she was being kind of a jerk and asshole about people not understanding certain things in their book. So there's that. And then I don't have any tweets about disregarding book bloggers, but what has been going on Twitter is that essentially Emily Duncan said like book bloggers, alluding to like they're useless, like they're not really increasing their book sales, but I don't have a tweet where she tweeted that. So that essentially is the majority of all of the criticisms and things that have been going on about Emily Duncan on Twitter for the last few days. One of Rin Chupeco's tweets, they alluded to other authors who are essentially in this mean girl group, this Slack channel, which is like a workplace chat kind of thing, who were apparently all bullies, or maybe they just didn't say anything to discourage Emily's behavior. I'm not sure. Again, there's no like photos or screenshots of the Slack channel to say who was saying what to whom, but Rin included Rory Power, Christine, Lynn Herman, and someone else in their tweet. So Rory Power, who is the author of Wilder Girls and Burn Our Bodies Down, tweeted, "I've been following everything going on with E. Duncan. I haven't wanted to speak over the people affected, but to clarify, I've called Emily in privately a number of times, but given some new info that came to light today, I've taken a step back from that relationship. I know a public friendship with a person can help shield them from taking accountability, and I understand and apologize for my part in that. The harm done has been very public. I want to acknowledge it in the same forum." So a lot of people replied to these tweets saying this is very much like a non-apology. Your support of Emily has made me very wary of you. Like this isn't enough. So that's what multiple people said to Rory's apology. And someone asked, "I'm a bit curious on why you would wait so long to step back if you've been calling her in a number of times before. What makes this time different?" And Rory replied, "I was under the impression that their behavior had changed. But the more I've read today, the more it's clear to me that it isn't the case, and that's on me for not realizing and taking action sooner." Then Christine Lynn Herman, who is the author of the Devouring Grey duology, their tweets are, "I want to say publicly that I'm aware of the current conversation around Emily Duncan and my own part in it. Over the last few years, I have taken private steps back from this relationship for many reasons, one of which are some of the concerns being raised today. My tacit support of Emily by never discussing this publicly is something I've been ashamed of for a long time, and I should have handled all of this far better. I apologize for the harm and behavior has caused. I understand that a private call-in of behavior means nothing without publicly stating disapproval when actions continue. This is a mistake I won't make again. I was unaware of some of this until today, so here's my public disapproval. I do not support anti-Semitism or harassment." There was a reply that said, "How are you planning to rectify the harmful behavior you have participated in? How are you going to make it up to the authors and bloggers who have come under abuse because of your silence and complicity? Please share your accountability plan. Thank you." And Christine replied, "Hey Adiba, I will support bloggers' work in the future, boost works by authors affected, and make a concerted effort in my private life to examine my own biases that led to the aforementioned silence and complicity. Thank you for asking about this." And Adiba replied, "Christine, Emily has been accused of racism and anti-Semitism amongst many, many other things. Do you really believe that retweeting bloggers and book promo by authors affected is good enough response to being complicit to violence and bigotry? I don't." So multiple people kind of replied the same to Christine's apology, like that's It's just not enough. Like, why did it take you this long? What are you going to do to change it? I'm not aware of any apology from Claire Wentz. I'm not sure who that is. I'm assuming it's another YA author, but I didn't see an apology, or I can't even find their Twitter. And finally, here is Emily Duncan's apology. I want to issue an apology, especially to my BIPOC colleagues in publishing whom my words and actions have harmed. I have made remarks in various places that were hurtful and mean, and through my privilege, I did not see that I was using my status to hurt others, but I was. There is no excuse for it. It was racist. I am deeply sorry, and while I do not expect forgiveness, I do want to speak directly to those I've harmed. My words and my behavior were inappropriate, and I did not see when friends were trying to call me in. It was and remains reprehensible, and I apologize for it. To those specific individuals that I have hurt, I would like to personally apologize, but only if you are willing, comfortable, and would feel safe hearing from me, and I understand if not. I also want to apologize for an instance of poor behavior on Twitter where I was cavalier about a very serious topic. My callousness caused harm, and I should have both recognized and spoken on it much earlier than this. In terms of criticisms that an element of my book included an anti-Semitic plot, I did recognize the significance while researching and tried to handle this in a sensitive way, but I fell short. I am sorry for the harm this has caused. I will take more care when writing outside my own experience and understanding. In making amends, what damage is done cannot be undone. I will be taking an extended leave of social media because I recognize that I have a lot of work to do on addressing and rectifying my behavior, including working on conducting myself in a more respectful and mindful manner towards both my peers and my audience, and I want to give my full focus and attention to this. So Emily posted this on Twitter and on Instagram, and one response that I've seen shared around and was sent to me also in response to their apology was, this apology doesn't even address the issues. It was racist. What was racist? That you targeted multiple Asian authors and racist attacks with your friends, that you bullied Hafsa Faizal when she was debuting her novel, that you called an Asian author ugly simply because you didn't like their work, that you made a Taylor Swift burner account to attack and defame Rin Chupeco, that you attacked John Boyega when he discussed racism he experienced in Star Wars. An apology usually addresses the wrongdoing. Are you too scared to include what you've done wrong because it makes you look like a monster? To those I have harmed. Who have you harmed? Not including names makes the accusations feel flimsy and less credible. Say their names. Say I attacked Rin Chupeco and Hafsa Faizal and weaponized my whiteness against them and thought I could get away with it. My poor behavior on Twitter. What behavior? Where you bullied a survivor of who shared the traumatic story? Say that. Say what you did. Which is very fair. Rin Chupeco also had another tweet thread, which I'll link down below, but I'm not going to read, but it was talking about different things and how other writers were towards them when they were debuting, and how that, has fueled how they act in the industry now, and, how they like to call out stuff. So you can read that if you want to down below. A tweet I did see that was, if you're calling stuff out loudly, it's also important to acknowledge if you have a history of the same behavior, if you already haven't. We all have the capacity to grow and get better. I really believe that, but let's also be truthful about our own mess, which I thought was really important to share. I forgot to add this follow-up tweet that said, someone asked me if this was about Rin, and oh my god, no. But there are so many people talking anti-bullying on the timeline, like so many, who have done similar stuff or hurt people. I'm not subtweeting a person, I'm talking about a general issue. And two more things that I wanted to share. This tweet thread, which I won't read the whole thing, I'll also link it down below, starts, we should be able to do textual critique of problematic elements, especially when harm is often in repetition than in individual instances of cringe, without it being all about a fundamental lack of ethics on the part of the author. The point of literary analysis shouldn't be to separate out works into the elect and the damned. It's not a quest to find the one pure and unproblematic work, nor should it be all about ferreting out secret bad people through their opaque word codes. Of course, the moment you find out someone is terrible, this will often change your reading of their books. Innocuous lines could gain much more uncomfortable readings, implications crystallize. You don't give the author the benefit of the doubt anymore, but that doesn't necessarily mean you could have always known, that you could reliably ferret out racism through the magic of textual criticism, that every line of cringe is a secret dog whistle. And so they go on to give examples, but I just thought it was a really interesting piece that every time there's something wrong with the work does not inherently mean that there's something wrong with the person. And I think it has become popular or more commonplace for, not to say that people are looking for it, but and some may, but some people read for pleasure, so they just read something they enjoy it, whatever, and some people are more analytical. And so maybe people who read more analytically are looking more into something, maybe without knowing, or just like on alert, and maybe look deeper into something than it was meant to be, or maybe it is harmful, but that doesn't mean that the author meant that. And like, sure, you should call attention to it, but I don't know. I'm not the person to discuss this. I need Marness to vocalize what I want to say, because she always says it better. Also, to add in here to my ramblings, that intent does not equal impact. So even though an author didn't intend something, it still might impact people in a negative way. And so I just think the issue here in these numerous instances is, even if you had good intentions, but it impacted certain people in a negative way, to come out and address that. At least acknowledge it. This is mostly towards Jay Kristoff, because he's never acknowledged any of the major criticisms about his work, like the harmful parts. So I hope some of this is making sense. And then lastly, this tweet, and there are multiple sharing the same sentiment, saying sharing a list of problematic authors without any context or info is not the activism you think it is. Like, how reductive, putting someone who is racist, someone who is annoying, someone who literally assaulted people on the same list, and thinking that doesn't do more harm than good. I'm just blocking because I can tell they care more about seeming woke than helping marginalized people. And I have seen tweets with, do not buy from these authors, do not support, or I don't know if there's like an actual list. And I will admit that I've been guilty of this. I haven't made a list, but I've joked in like a video or on a live that we need like a ongoing Google Doc of authors. And now seeing that, like, I understand how that's harmful, especially there's varying degrees of problematic. I hate that word, but adding to this conversation of these lists going around, there's a list going around featuring problematic authors and people, including the one who made the list, who think anti-Semitism, racism, romanticizing abuse, and bullying are on the same level as a white author not having people of color in his books. There's also mentions of an author with problematic rep. Said author has spoken up and apologized for writing it. Equating this to James Dashner and Jay Asher, both have sexual assault allegations, does no one any good. Please consider this when you're making these lists. In no way is it comparable to say, hey, John Green belongs on this list because his books feature an all-white cast, to these two authors have sexually assaulted people in the publishing industry. I don't know where this thread is going exactly. Canceling people is a personal choice and creates boundaries of what you're willing to accept and who you're choosing to support. By all means, don't read books by a white author who only writes white people in their books. But please don't act like that is the same thing as having sexual assault allegations, racism claims, bullying, and other horrid things. And Mara from Books Like Whoa just did a really great video on talking about her reasons why she would choose to support or not support an author. And everyone's is going to be different. What bothers you may not bother this person. And we're not talking about like human rights, you know? We're not talking about overt racism or like really harmful rhetoric. Like, there's just different things that people are going to be like, okay, well, that bothers you, but it doesn't bother me. And even at the end of the day, with overt racism or all the isms, right? There's some people for every daggone ism. You can't control what people read. And then if you have a platform, it is up to you who you want to share on your platform, who you want to read. And I mean, that's up to everyone. So it's just really tough. And I will say that I'm going to put myself that I've been complicit in this, and this, like, not cancel culture, because people aren't truly canceled. It's usually a person from a marginalized group who is more likely to be canceled. But I think it should be more of a accountability. Like, people long ago, obviously the people who were her friends, one said that they tried to call Emily Duncan in, one maybe not. So people long ago, and this is for situations with all other kinds of people and going forward, that when you see someone close to you continuously doing harmful things to people, that you should call it out, so that it's not years later and someone else has to call it out and then it turned into this big thing. If things could be, you notice that maybe not once, maybe 2 times, this person attacking someone or bullying someone or whatever, why not call it out early before they continue to keep doing it? I'd also like to add in this Twitter thread, do not name people as guilty if you, quote unquote, saw a tweet thread 2 years ago, but I don't fully remember it all. Because you are messing with people's literal reputations and livelihood. This isn't a game, and y'all need to stop treating it like it is. I was harassed for a year plus, silenced by fear, only spoke up because I saw my abuser creating a situation where they might take advantage of other BIPOC. The agony I went through before speaking up on my own experience was huge, and y'all are out here going, they maybe replied to a tweet thread. Everything that's being said isn't necessarily true. And obviously, I showed you screenshots of what I could to back up what information, but other things, there is no evidence besides this person saying this and this person saying that. So it's just always to take things with a grain of salt unless you have proof. And so none of the recent things that I've said or anything in this video is to try and make any kind of excuse for Emily Duncan or Jay Kristoff, because Jay Kristoff, for one, has a history of continuing to misrepresent people and appropriate culture in books and not listen to readers when they tell him that. And then Emily Duncan, there's obvious stuff that they have done wrong, that we have seen that they have done wrong, that they have admitted to doing wrong somewhat. So this was just kind of a general topic that was also going on at the same time, because people were putting all these people together on lists and everything. And so it's just like, if you just hear something, one-off tweet, maybe not go off that, but like obviously there is evidence of these wrongdoings from Jay and Emily. And, you know, you could decide how you feel about them and their work going forward. And so if something that someone does doesn't align with your moral compass or your values or whatever, you can choose to not read that person. Watching videos from Ashley at Bookish Rome, who is a youth services librarian. Side note, Emily Duncan is also a youth service librarian, which make people kind of like, ooh, child. But Ashley talks often on her channel about, I will never tell you not to read this book, because as a librarian, they have to really take in censorship really serious in their job. Because, you know, even if your personal values say you're not going to read this book, you can't tell a library patron, hey, you can't read this or don't read that book. So between that and then listening to Mara's video and just seeing how intense the situation has been, I probably have said that in the past and I can't go back and change that. But anytime I bring up a text or a book or something, like, I mean, the one that I was talking about in my last video, A Gentle Tyranny, like, I really wish people wouldn't read it because it seems like really harmful content. But then at the end of the day, I can't control what you read. You know what I'm saying? Like, I have no authority to tell you not to read this or not to read that. So I'm just letting you know that these are things that have come from various people. Some people that it directly affects them, you know, members of the Jewish community, members of the Asian community, things like that. And they find these things offensive. So I hope that somewhat clearly explain the situation. Hopefully Emily learns from this. The other authors do too, about, you know, calling out friends or calling in friends sooner. And we can only hope that everyone involved learns from the situation and we just improve in the future. So anyway, I'm done talking. My throat hurts. But thank you for watching. If you did watch, I hope I made some kind of sense. I think we bored Nigel to sleep though. Nigel! But yeah, I'd like to hear any of your thoughts down in the comments about anything I said. Please give this video a like, subscribe, check out my description so I'll link as many of those threads and things that I can around the whole situation. And take care of yourself, you know. I know the internet is a wild, wild place. A wild place. So if you ever need a break, just take a break. But links to my social media and ways to support my channel are listed down below as well. And we will see you on Tuesday. Bye. A BIPOC person, a person of color person. Wow. Hello, Nigel. Welcome to the after show. How are you? Would you like to sing a little piece for the people? Or would you like me to sing it? Okay, you would like me to sing it? Okay, can you sit up here? I'm going to sing it to you. All I want to do when I wake up in the morning is see your eyes. My Nigel, my Nigel. Never thought that a dog like you would ever care for me. My Nigel. All I wanna do in the middle of the evening is hold you tight. My Nigel, my Nigel. You don't want any more? Are you over? You didn't like my song? I don't think he liked my song. Can I have a kiss? Can I have a kiss? Nigel, can I have a kiss? Thank you. He still loves me.